Hello, I am Baron-Quipity, and welcome to Baron-Quipity, a podcast of quips and tips from a hip librarian gamer. Let's get right to it. So, I don't really have much of a script this time. I will mostly be ad-libbing here, but I've written an outline for myself. So, this episode, the purpose of this is that over the past couple of weeks, especially these past few days, I've noticed a particular uptick in the number of top Brawlhalla community members talking about this game we all love so much. Boomie made a bunch of tweets about it, Eggsoup, Shwerpy, and others have made videos about their thoughts and proposals about what could make the Brawlhalla and the Brawlhalla community better. Diakou will be sharing the results of many hours of research on the subject tomorrow, which I very much look forward to. In the midst of all this, seeing these pros and creators who've been in the scene much longer than I have, I'll admit I didn't think I would have very much to contribute. I'll explain why a little bit later. Suffice it to say that at this point, I no longer think that. I have no reason not to share my thoughts, really, after listening to what others have had to say. The tweets and videos and everything that I've mentioned, I'm going to link in the description below so you can look at them. Even, if and when this conversation is long past or whatever, those links will help give some context about why I decided to devote episode 4 of Baron-Quipity to this. So, I want to first of all give context to my experience and attitude with and towards Brawlhalla, because I think, as with anything else, context is vitally important. And so I just want you guys to know, why I think the way I think, why I didn't think I had much to say about these, about how to make Brawlhalla a better game, or things like that, or whatever. So first of all, I started Brawlhalla back in 2018 when I discovered it as a free game on Steam, and I've been playing off and on ever since. I did have a little bit of a hiatus, I guess. Like, I first came on when I think Isaiah was the newest legend, and then I didn't play for a little bit, and then I got back on around when Lin Fei was new. But anyway, so honestly, I don't feel it's been a couple of years already, but I don't feel like I've been here that long, especially since Brawlhalla has been a thing, since, 2014, 2015, with beta and everything. Some of these people, I know off the top of my head, Defensive, for example, have been playing since beta, and it's just insane to me. But yeah, I just discovered this, and yeah, honestly, thinking about this, I'm rather surprised at how far I've come as a Brawlhalla. I hesitate to call myself a Brawlhalla content creator, but since I'm an official Brawlhalla partner, I guess I should continue to say that I am a Brawlhalla content creator. Some sort of, small influencer in in the community. I feel like I'm a small influencer. I don't know. I don't care about numbers. But anyway, I started in 2018. I'm still barely a low gold player in ranked. If I play my main Scarlet, I can stay in gold, but if I try other characters, which I have been doing recently, especially with Battle Pass missions, I hover between high silver and low gold, basically. As I'm sure you know, I'm focused on the lore. That is my shtick. That's probably the main reason I kind of got recognition so relatively quickly. It's like I'm doing something. I focus on something so unique, something that few people ever did. There were certainly some lore nerds before, but I went full in on it, and no one else had that position in the community. So I just kind of took it, and then all of a sudden, the BMG, Blue Mammoth Games, thought I was a cool addition to their partnership program, I guess. I don't play a whole lot, honestly. I don't play on a daily basis. I play maybe a few times a week, if I'm lucky, or if I feel I have the time or something. But yeah, that's pretty much That's pretty much it. I've been playing a little bit more recently because of the battle pass missions. I've been having a lot of fun with that. But I'm not like most Brawlhalla content creators. I don't think. Not like I'm not like most Brawlhalla quote unquote Brawlhalla influencers, if you want to call me that. Um, because I have my own focus. And honestly, my demographic is very different from most of the rest of the Brawlhalla community, which I'll get to in a little bit. But yeah, started in 2018. I'm barely a low gold player and ranked. When most of my fellow partners are like platinum or diamond, I don't have like platinum. Seems like a pipe dream at this point. Uh, I don't feel like I'll ever reach platinum, and I'm fine with that. Focused on lore, don't play a lot. Also, another reason I didn't think that I would have a lot to say. We're getting into the meat of why I didn't think I had much to contribute to this Brawlhalla community conversation. I'm generally not too concerned, nor am I knowledgeable about the nuances of game mechanics. I mean, I know a bit about game mechanics in general and like game design and whatever. One of my favorite YouTube channels is Mark Brown, Game Maker's Toolkit. I watch all of his videos, and I've learned a lot about how games are made, and I have a lot of appreciation for developers because of that and everything. But like the nuances of fighting games, of competitive games, they're sort of lost on me because I don't care as much about winning. I care about having fun. I'm a casual player, and so all this talk about like whether or not weapon throwing should still be a thing, competitive gaming, what dash does, frame data, all that kind of stuff. I understand. I understand the terminology. I get it. I understand generally what people are saying, but I don't usually have much to say other than like, huh, yeah, that makes sense. Cool, I could see that. If I was in platinum or diamond, I would probably care more about those. Like that's been my mindset for a while. Also, quite honestly, I consider myself someone easy to please. Um, I uh, I prefer to give people the benefit of the doubt. That includes uh, no, that includes fellow content creators in the Brawlhalla community. That includes other people I interact with. That includes people who disagree with me. That includes developers, like the BMG developers and other developers. I tend to give people the benefit of the doubt unless I see compelling evidence otherwise. The whole innocent until proven guilty thing. The whole like, I just I I just assume, unless shown otherwise, that people are trying their best with what they have to do what they feel is best for them for whatever they want. I at times can also be seen as a bit of a BMG apologist. I addressed this in the first Baron-Quipity podcast episode, I think. But yeah, and I mean, uh, someone called me BMG bootlicker at one point. Um, I, I've kind of stepped back from that whole thing of trying to be a hard apologist, or a defender of BMG or whatever, things like that. I'm just my own person. And I personally think that Blue Mammoth Games, they're doing a great job with what they have. They're still, they have lots of resources and everything. Um, and also, just in general, I prefer to focus on facts and compelling evidence when I argue or discuss various things with other people. I like civil discussions and arguments. I don't mind talking with people who disagree with me, as long as we can have a civil discussion, as long as we can, talk things out. And even if I don't generally argue to try to make you agree with me. I tend to argue or discuss things to, it's one of the 7 habits of highly effective people. First, seek to understand, then seek to be understood. That's what I want to do anytime I have a discussion with people when when I don't agree with them on something. I first try to understand their point of view, and then I try to help them understand why I think the way I do. And that's really what I think is what I feel is important, because I may, as a librarian, as someone who cares about research and whatever, I may, appreciate facts and evidence and logic and reasoning and everything like that. But so you may think that, I may be more of a, like, in the Myers-Briggs thing, INTJ or whatever. And I think I was at some point. But over the years, I've become more of an INFJ. The T stands for thinking, while the F stands for feelings. As much as I care about logic and reasoning, and I do, I care a bit more about people. I care more about understanding them, and I care more about. Again, that's probably why I give people the benefit of the doubt. Um, that It's probably why I don't really. I kind of, whenever people like get upset with me or whatever, I tend to either laugh it off, or I tend to like kind of get a bit anxious about it, and I say, I'm trying my best, and I'm defending myself. I tend to get a bit more defensive and stuff like that. So for those reasons, because of my I feel like my unique knowledge and expertise in the Brawlhalla community, I haven't felt like I could be of much use in this general conversation I've been seeing from Boomie, Diakou, Diakou very soon, Shwerpy, Eggsoup, and others, because they're all much closer to like the competitive scene, to like the hardened veterans of Brawlhalla. And I'm just a lore nerd, right? What could I possibly have to say about like mechanics that could make Brawlhalla better, or about like why devs are or are not implementing certain things or whatever, you know things like clans, or like post game chat, or like quote unquote toxicity. I generally haven't cared much about that, because I just think, you know, I'm fine. People should be fine. The devs are doing the best they can. BMG is still a business. They're not necessarily our like, they're not necessarily like our best friends or anything. They are still they're still a business, and there's still people trying to, work to pay the bills and everything. Anyway, that is the context behind my experience and attitude with and towards Brawlhalla and towards the Brawlhalla community. I'm very grateful to be part of it. Honestly, this is a great community. I just wasn't sure what I could say about um, what I've seen other people, my fellow content creators and influencers, saying. With that, I no longer feel that I have nothing to say. Um, I don't have any proposals or anything. I like Shwerpy did in his recent video about like Brawlhalla's uniqueness is also its flaw or whatever. I don't necessarily have anything like that. I haven't done the kind of research Diakou has been doing, which you might be surprised by. But I guess I don't feel like I need to research all that much. Right now, I'm kind of focusing more on my own observations, and giving you my thoughts and feelings on the matter. So, what are these apparent issues that are being discussed? Um, I am very impressed with Daikou's. I'm sorry, Daikou's. Like, he made a list of all the things that he's been going through, like clans for consoles, better training mode, and better tutorials, improved AI, new engine, new stuff for ranked. You know what? Maybe it'll be good to go over. Diakou seems to have been the one who has gone like deepest into like everyone's concerns, everyone's criticisms about Brawlhalla and about the community and everything. And so I don't see the need to reinvent the wheel. If I feel I have something to say about it, I guess I could. Um, but implementations that people have been asking for a long time, such as like, clans is a big thing. Um, I, I, I don't know. I guess I've never seen much of a reason for clans myself. Although I can see why other people would want to have clans so that their friends can hang out in Brawlhalla or whatever. I guess that's not exactly the way I game. It is unfortunate that that feature hasn't been implemented in all platforms. I don't know. I generally assume that if something hasn't been implemented, it's harder than we think it is to implement it. We just don't have. Just like I feel it's important to give context about my Brawlhalla experience and attitudes. I wish we had more context about what the developers, what Blue Mammoth Games, has been like, what their resources are and things like that. Although I think that would help a lot in kind of, maybe that would assuage some people's like anger or frustration or something like that. I don't know. Diakou certainly has a lot of like features and things like that that would certainly I honestly everything on here I think would be beneficial to Brawlhalla. It's a lot though. Um, Although I don't know about some things like color blindness settings, background schemes, background blur, and stuff like that. Stuff that I may not care about, but other people may care about. It could make it a little more accessible, certainly. Accessibility in games is certainly a very important thing. I would love to see improved AI. Only because so that I can see bots fight against bots. I think it'd be fun to see what if we hosted some sort of like bot CPU tournament or something. I think that'd be hilarious. Account linking is another thing. Being able to transfer your purchases and your progress from one account or one platform to another. I also assume, I know that's something the devs want to do, but I assume that that's also challenging because not only is it something from the devs end, it's something that the platforms have to agree to as well. Sony has to agree to that. Nintendo has to agree to be able to allow for that. Microsoft, whatever, Uh, other things seem rather minor to me. Flags and avatars, 2v2 search, esports, the esports scene, things like that. Um, oh, this is something interesting. Why doesn't BMG talk to the community about what they're doing or possibly working on like Dinohedron used to? Yeah, transparency. Transparency is certainly a good thing, and I'm sure the developers do everything they can. When Dinohedron was like mostly the guy on the dev streams, I imagine that BMG had a lot more leeway into what they could talk about. But because BMG is so they have big partners now. They have Ubisoft on their side. I imagine a lot of it has to do with non-disclosure agreements. Honestly, um, they couldn't. They certainly they worked with Cartoon Network and certainly weren't allowed to talk about um, their the Ben 10 crossover until like the day they released it. Honestly, um, I don't know about other features, but I imagine that maybe they're working with other companies to work on things like that, and they have NDAs are more of a thing now. Um, More things to spend gold on: servers, netcode, balance. Balance is such a thing that I never pay close attention to. There was one time where Scarlet got this huge, crazy like hitbox wackiness with her hammer neutral signature, where she could hit from behind, and I thought that was a lot of fun. I knew it was broken. I figured that it would be patched out pretty soon, and it was. That's really the only, and I mean I had a lot of fun with that, just like knocking people away with the signature from behind, knocking people behind me with that. That was crazy. That was nuts. That was a crazy few days or a week or so. Other than that, though, I I look at the balance patches. I just out of curiosity, I never really notice that much changes. Again, I'm low gold if I'm lucky, mid gold if I'm very lucky. I'm at a point where stats and balance changes generally don't affect me at all. But there is a large pro scene, and I can understand why they would want. That's why they would care more about those, mechanics and everything. Um, so, continue to talk about it. I just, as far as balance and things like that goes, um, it seems like each balance patch, I would love to get more context as to why each balance patch happens. Why certain I would love to hear more from the developers about why they did certain things with each balance patch. I'd love to get more behind the scenes on what the process is, what the conversations are like about that. Um, More casual content. Honestly, we've been getting a lot of casual content, which is great. A lot of game modes, things like that. More gadgets might be fun, and whatever. Another question I see a lot: why do we get crossovers but not new features? Again, that's kind of like Blue Mammoth Games is a business, and if they or Ubisoft sees opportunities to you know gain like to be paid to put characters in the game or whatever, more power to them, honestly. like I don't think these crossovers really happened all that much until like Ubisoft and other partners started coming in and working with Blue Mammoth Games. Um, I'm pretty sure, I'm pretty sure Ubisoft was a big player in like the Tomb Raider thing or whatever, working with Square Enix of all people. Um, so yeah, even with all this talking, I've been talking for 20 minutes. I don't even know if I've even said all that much about it, but I guess what I will say is, yeah, I don't know if like I could say very much in the vein of again Diakou, Eggsoup, and Shwerpy and others. I can say things like this though, just like um, I can understand that at some point when I was a lot more hardcore, like defensive about Blue Mammoth Games, whatever, a month or so ago. Uh, I certainly didn't need to do that. I didn't need to be as defensive, and I'm certainly being better at being myself with that. At the same time, I would like to see. I continue to see a majority of people, being nice to each other, being understanding, giving people a benefit of the doubt, that sort of thing. At the same time, I recognize that most of the Brawlhalla of the chatty, active social media Brawlhalla community are between the ages of like I don't know, 13 to 18 or something, or maybe in their early 20s. I'm in my late 20s. I am approaching 30 pretty soon in the next couple of years. So the way I see things is probably different than a lot of other people. Um, I tend to not care. I tend to be a bit more, maybe not so much not care, but sort of be a lot more patient about things because, um, and I know a lot of the developers are either in their mid or maybe their late 20s as well. Probably about my age as well. Maybe that's why I understand the developers a bit more. I know what it's like to be a married man. I know a married person, living in an apartment, that kind of thing. Working a job as well as pursuing a hobby, which can also be kind of its own part-time job in a way. um, I pursued lots of hobbies. It's ridiculous. Um, but I know for these people like these BMG developers, they love, some of them love streaming. They do that after a hard day's work of interacting with the Brawlhalla community, and they interact more as themselves. Like Sloshula is a good example. What Duke and Wanan do and things like that. Uh, but yeah, um, as much as I like doing this whole podcast thing, the one thing I don't like about it is that I can't like have a conversation with people. I like talking with people, whether in public or in private. If there's things you want to say to me or with me, that's why my DMs are open. I like talking to people. I like contributing to conversations when I can. And that's why I'm doing this right now. I'm contributing to the Brawlhalla community conversation that I'm seeing right now in this current moment in time. So, I'm actually also doing this right before work too. I've got about 10 minutes before I need to go to work. But yeah, what else do I want to say? Um, Anything else in my notes? I guess. Um, but yeah, this is also why I like streaming as well. I just like talking to people, they're, answering people's questions about me, about things I know, like Brawlhalla lore, or about apps or about other things. Um, yeah, I, uh, I appreciate all of you listening. And if there is something in here that is helpful to the conversation that I've been talking about, let me know. I'd love to know what I say that is helpful, because again, I may have been in here for like I may have been in the community for like 2 years, but I feel like I've only just been visible for like barely 1 year. So I'm very new in this whole like in the whole Brawlhalla Twitterverse scene or whatever, or anything like that. So by all means, give me feedback on how my community interactions are. I'd love to know what do I do or say that is helpful, that is a good perspective. What, apart from being the lore nerd, the lore master, what do I have to contribute? That's something I've been thinking about, and if you have feedback, I'm happy to hear that as well. So, but yeah, I guess with nothing else to say at the moment, that concludes this episode of Baron-Quipity. Thank you very much for listening, and until next time, my friends, make it a great day. All the best.